What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're doing my top 10 bosses in MapleStory. So my previous top 10 video, top 10 classes in MapleStory, based on my own opinion. I had a lot of fun talking about my favorite classes in the game, so I figured let's keep going with another top 10, right? So I can rank these based on a lot of things, but how I'm going to be ranking this list is how interesting their boss mechanics are, not really on how difficult the boss is or how it, visually looks or anything like that. So yeah, based on boss mechanics. But it cannot be denied that, the more difficult bosses have more interesting mechanics because there's more stuff to look out for. Some information might be inaccurate because I'm providing everything by my from memory, and from my personal experiences. So, if I get some information wrong, forgive me. And yeah, I hope this list could provide some insight on how some of these bosses work if you've never gotten to them, or you're just here just to listen to me rant on. But yeah, here we go. As well as I forgot to mention, that bosses like Mano, Stumpy, those bosses in those areas, Pyrrhion, Nemesis, right? The Mush Mom. Those bosses don't really count because, they usually only have like one basic attack, touch damage, I guess. They're kind of outdated, so those bosses do not count in this list, of course. But yeah, let's get right into it. Starting off the list, I have number 10, Gloom. So Gloom is a giant eye in the sky which you fight against at level 245 in the Moonbridge area. So this boss has a lot of debris falling down from the sky. It applies 4 status effects depending on which debris you get hit by. He can seal, stun, zombify, or blind you with each abnormal status debris. Zombify is pretty deadly because, if you use any healing skills, you will take damage and you usually kill yourself or your allies if you use any healing skills such as Bishop Heal, right? So try to avoid not healing yourself other than using the potion key. Blind's pretty annoying because of, you can't really hit the boss for damage. Seals, you can't teleport or flash him, which is a big mobility issue because, you have to move a lot in this boss. And stuns, of course, you can't move, basically. So Gloom has 2 forms. Basically, Gloom has an enclosed eye and when he opens up. So when his eyes are enclosed in rocks, you can only deal 10% damage to him, so, you should wait until he opens his eye for 2 DPS. There's also tornadoes, which deal a bit of damage, but you should probably just dodge them pretty easily. So tentacles. Gloom will hit you with tentacles from the sky, and after about a minute, he'll super stab, I guess, with giant tentacles, which will either spawn from the left or to the right. You usually stay center to see where he's stabbing at. But once he stabs to the left, for example, the next tentacle will stab right, so he'll stab on both ends at the end of it. He'll also create a platform after he stabs. So for example, if he stabs left, you go to the right, and then you rope lift up or teleport up to avoid the second stab, essentially. And then you climb up the eye, or climb up his tentacles to reach for his eye, and you'll just damage him right there. And his eye will be fully open, so you can deal 100% damage to him. After that, the tentacles will despawn, and then there's this sucking in the center. It'll suck every player towards the center, and he'll charge a super laser. Once the laser is fired, it will one-shot everyone in the center. So you want to basically hold your left key if you're on the left, or right if you're on the right, to avoid getting sucked into the middle. It's kind of like a Chaos Queen suck as well. But yeah, it's pretty deadly because with the debris, if you get hit by a stun, you will basically get stunned and you can't move, right? So then you get stuck in the center and you get lasered to death. So that's a pretty common death, so be careful with the debris. And there's also another super annoying mechanic, probably the mechanic that makes this boss super difficult, which is the darkness gauge. So while you're fighting in the Gloom fight, the darkness gauge will periodically just increase while you're in the boss fight, but if you catch more debris, the darkness gauge will go up even faster, so try to dodge as much debris as you can. even if you're in dark sight and you catch them, your darkness gauge will go up, even though you don't take the abnormal status effect, right? So once you're in darkness, your vision becomes very limited, so you can't see much, as well as mobs will spawn around you. Those mobs will apply seal when they attack you, so you can't teleport or flash jump after you get sealed, right? So that's pretty annoying. As well as on the ground, there will be hands that spawn, and if you get into contact with any of these hands, you will get rooted, which you need to use your arrow keys to free yourself. Kind of like when you get hatted in Chaos Clan. So yeah, be careful about the hands and the mobs. You can also deplete the darkness gauge while you're in darkness by killing the mobs inside the darkness, so there's that. As well as once you are out of darkness, you will have like a cleansing aura around you. So if any party members are in darkness and while you cleanse, their bar will go down significantly when you cleanse. So try to time your cleanses and be near each other so that you can decrease the darkness gauge. It's very easy to die in darkness because of that combination, right? Especially if the darkness combo is when it's not like during tests when the tentacles have spawned for platforms, because you'll be more likely to be on the ground when that happens. So yeah, unfortunately, I think Gloom is a really annoying boss. You have to actually time your darkness gauge. So there's like a lot of micromanagement you need to do to have the right timing for when you reach darkness, right? So yeah, I don't think I really like Gloom that much because also debris. Sometimes you can't avoid it because they just fall down so fast, right? Some of them. So yeah, that's why I have Gloom at number 10. Coming in at number 9, I have Golix or Helix. So his difficulty is based on the number of limbs that are left. So he has 2 shoulders and a stomach. If you kill none of them, that is the hardest difficulty, which is referred often to as Helix. So he has 3 stages. His arms will reach up and try to grab you. If you are grabbed, you will die instantly. And he has 2 breath attacks. The light pink breath attack will basically seduce you to the center. If you reach to the center, you will die instantly and it will heal him. So that's probably the one you want to avoid the most because you don't want to heal the boss and die, right? There's also a dark purple breath. If you get caught into it, you won't die because it's not a one-shot, but it will bind you in place, which makes you an easy target for his arms, so you should probably dodge that one too. Once you phase that one bar, you'll move on to the second stage, which will spawn 2 platforms to his eye level, which then you will attack his eye. So his arms will continue to attack you, so watch out for that. As well as he'll have a key reverse move, which is a map-wide AoE. The animation is pretty much like orange circles surrounding his forehead, so you'll know when it happens. Your keys will be reversed, so left is right, right is left, right basically. So and then after like 3 seconds of the initial key reverse cast, you will take 90% HP damage. So if you were not full HP at the end of it, you will die basically instantly. So for this one, you should really have potion key ready, so that after the 90% HP happens, you will instantly heal. But if you had to heal before, so that you didn't have to die, you should probably exit the map and then re-enter the map, so that you can bypass the potion key, because you're leaving the boss map, so then your potion key does not have any cooldown. So that's a pretty cool cheese to do, I guess. Tactical cheese, I should say. There's also potatoes, basically those little mobs you see at the bottom. If 5 of them enter the center, you will die instantly. There's also a counter for that, as well as if you have even 1 counter on your head, you will not be able to leave the map unless you die and reset the counter. So yeah, try not to let any potatoes get into the center. It's just not good. Anyways, after you phase that, you will enter phase 3, which is a gem DPS check, basically. You have a timer and you have an HP bar. You just need to burst it down, essentially. And Alex won't attack you with his arms anymore, so you don't have to watch for that. And there won't be any key reverses either. But yeah, that is basically Helix in a nutshell. This boss is a daily boss, right? Of course, if you need Golix equipment. Honestly, the boss mechanics are fine. The key reverse is kind of annoying, to be honest, but overall, not too bad of a boss design. Coming in at number 8, I have Chaos Fanban, or Chicken. Usually people call him that, because he's a chicken, basically. So this boss has time-related powers, which makes it pretty cool that his mechanics are also time-related, somewhat, I guess. So you'll see that the timer on this boss is actually less than the timer on the other Chaos Root Abyss bosses, because this guy has time-related stuff. So there's black and white clocks that spawn randomly on the map. If you lure the boss into a black clock, the max amount of time you can spend in the clock actually increases. If you lure him into white clock, the time decreases. So you can actually control how much time you have left inside this boss fight, which is actually pretty unique. I don't think any other boss in the game does this. He also has a couple of special attacks. He has a force teleport. This force teleport is actually an animation he casts, and he'll make a shadow of your character. So basically, after a short duration, such as like 3 or 4 seconds, you'll be teleported back to where you were, to that shadow. So basically, he'll combo this with like a one-shot move where he attacks, like a white laser, and basically you gotta dodge that. You can dodge it by ducking, or you can jump over it, or iframe, I guess. But you can iframe anything, right? So a common death in this boss fight is when you get forced teleport into that white laser. So you want to like jump to the opposite side of where your shadow is, so that he'll just attack towards you, not hit your shadow, where he'll teleport after like 4 seconds, right? So yeah, that's kind of a cool thing because it is kind of like time related, because he moves you back to where you were, sort of thing. He also has a jump smash AoE attack. Basically, at a certain HP threshold, he will start using this move. So basically, he jumps up and smashes the ground, and you need to jump up or be airborne when he does this, when he smashes the ground. Basically, anyone on the ground will get one shot, so yeah, you gotta time that one. He also has a hidden dimension move, where he goes into a different dimension and spawns a portal. You have to enter that portal, or at least one person has to enter the portal, to kill him in that other dimension. If you don't kill him in that other dimension, everyone will get one shot by a map-wide AoE in both dimensions. So yeah, it's not that bad as it sounds, because he pretty much has like no HP when he's like in the other dimension. So you can usually one-shot him pretty easily in that fake dimension. You also take like a bunch of dot damage, I guess, damage over time in that dimension, but it's not too big of a deal since CRA bosses don't have a potion cooldown, so he can just endlessly heal with potions. And then finally, at his final HP threshold, he will enter into a meteor stage. I'm not a big fan of meteor stage, as you know, because Chaos Gloom. Ugh, I don't like the debris. But yeah, a bunch of clocks will rain down and deal a lot of damage. One of them, the big clocks, will one-shot you, so you gotta be careful of that one. And he'll deal like a super knockback move, where he just flies up and has his wings flapping, so you gotta avoid that. You can actually attack just outside of his knockback range, so that you can still attack him. He'll still deal the white laser move, but he won't deal the instant teleport, I think. But yeah, Chaos Fanban, really unique boss actually. I like his time-related stuff, and yeah, his mechanics are pretty solid. Probably one of my favorite Chaos Root best bosses. Coming in at number 7, I have Chaos Vellum. So Vellum is basically a earthworm, where he'll be underground in the cave. So the only way to damage him is when he's out and above. So it's actually quite annoying to damage him, because he's usually in the ground. But before I talk about Fevel, I'll talk about the rocks above the stalagmites, basically. The rocks above will basically fall down from the cave. You'll have to remember where that position is, because it'll show the indication of where the rocks will land, however the shadow will disappear. But once like a second or two delay, the rocks will fall and stun anyone in its path. So basically, if you get stunned, you can't move, so that's really bad because you need to be moving. But it won't deal any damage to you, so you're fine in that department. However, the tails are the real killers. So Seavel actually has multiple tails. So there's actually a yellow indication at the bottom where it'll show you where the tail will next spawn. After like 2 seconds, the tail will spawn, and it will be a one-shot if you do come in contact with it. So there's a lot of room to react. However, you need to look out for the stuns from the rocks above and the tail one-shots at the bottom. So you gotta choose a pretty good safe spot to not get stunned and to not get one-shot. So I think that dynamic is pretty cool because it makes it so that you have to really think about where you're standing next. There's also the Seavel Fireball stage, where he pops up, which he'll remain actually popped up for a pretty significant amount of time, so you can DPS him at this stage. But he'll shoot 3 fireballs in a particular direction. If you get hit by any fireball, it is an instant one-shot, so you gotta be careful. So the best place to stand him is actually right below him, basically on him, or behind him, that works too, to avoid his fireball, so of course, but you have to still watch out for the tails and the cave stuns. Also, important thing to note is that if you hit the tails, not his head, his tails won't decrease his HP bar even though you're seeing damage on it, so yeah, hitting the tails is actually super useless. So you have to actually hit his head to deal damage to him. After a certain HP threshold, he will start firing a laser. Basically, he'll suck you either left or right, and you have to choose, because the map is actually quite wide or horizontally, so you have to go to the left or to the right. If you choose the right side, you will be able to survive that laser attack. If you choose the wrong side, you will get lasered to death. You'll need a really long iframe to actually survive this laser. So yeah, honestly, Seavel is not too terribly confusing mechanically wise. I just like that he makes the player, choose their positioning super wisely. So yeah, that's why I have Seavel at number 7. Number 6, we have Chaos Papillatus, or CPAP for short. So this boss has received a rework since its OG days, so now this boss is actually quite mechanically intensive. So yeah, here we go. So he has twin lasers, one on the left and one on the right. If they do collide with each other, it'll trigger a map AoE, which will kill everyone in the map. So you have to prevent those lasers from colliding by using your character to block the lasers from, colliding. There's also toy cranes on the roof, where if you get hit by them, you'll be attached into place and basically you can't move from that position. There's also laser floors. He'll spawn lasers basically on the floor, and you gotta get off the floor, otherwise you'll get one shot. And there's various platforms in the map, so you can get up there pretty easily with rope lift. Unfortunately, this does clash with the twin lasers, because if you're on the platforms, you can't really block the lasers from colliding, because you can't be on the floor blocking the lasers and not getting one shot by it unless you're using iframes, right? So that's usually a common death because you can't block the lasers and this laser floors, so it's pretty bad timing. There's also laser bombs, where he'll spawn a bunch of clocks on the ground and they'll explode after like 2 seconds and into like a vertical laser. These lasers are a one-shot as well, and they have quite of a big hitbox, so don't stand right next to it. You'll get one shot by it. So yeah, another common death is you get craned by a toy crane and you get attached into place and you get laser bombed vertically. There's also a time curse which CPAP gives to yourself. Basically, you get a timer above your head and you get a timer on the boss's head as well. So the mobs in this boss fight drops clocks, which has a divide by 2 and a multiply by 2. Basically, the time curse, how it works is that CPAP usually has a higher timer, like for example in this case 30 seconds, and yourself you'll have like 15 seconds. If you don't do anything about this mechanic, once your timer hits 0, and for example CPAP had like 30 seconds left and you hit 0 on your head, you'll get skill locked based on the time difference. So 30 minus 0 will be 30 seconds of skill lock. So to avoid this, you need to basically match your time curse with CPAP's. So if CPAP initially had 30 seconds and you had 15 seconds, you should kill a mob and get a ×2 clock drop in order to multiply your time curse by 2 to 30 seconds. 15 times 2, 30, right? So 30 and 30, you'll basically have no time curse right there. The time curse is also different. Once CPAP is reached at like a certain HP threshold, he'll be entering into like his rest stage where he'll won't be attacking. And if your time curse is still, up and it's still up and running, you'll get stunned instead of being skill locked. So that's even more deadly in this phase because you need all the time you can get because you only get like about like a minute to clear this stage. So the CPAP rest phase is pretty important because CPAP is trying to basically time travel in time, I guess, to an HP earlier because you're about to kill him already. So that's why he's resting. So to avoid this mechanic, you need to seal basically all the time portions that have high percentages. Basically, at the end of the timer, once the timer runs out, he'll heal based on a random remaining portions. Basically, this is an RNG. So you want to seal all the time portions where there's like 100%, because 100% HP heal is like basically you're bossing CPAP once again, right? So you want to seal all those ones. And the mobs now drop time clocks where you can move the minute hand by minutes or by hours. And the time portion will be sealed based on the hour hand. So you keep moving your hour hand to specific locations on the clock to seal that portion. And once you seal all the portions, CPAP has no option but to, continue his active phase with that amount of HP. So yeah, this phase is pretty annoying because, you gotta rotate the hour hand based on the RNG drops of the clocks by the mobs you kill. But yeah, you have a full minute, so it shouldn't be too hard. But you gotta do some quick maths to know where you're moving that hour hand. Anyways, once CPAP is killed, you'll enter into phase 2 where he's like without his robot, I guess, giant robot. And he's pretty easy to kill now. He only does bombs. The bombs only do 90% of your HP. It can be reduced damage with like a party. You can split the damage. As well as he has random teleports, which can kind of mess you up if you're trying to block the lasers from colliding, because that's still a thing. But yeah, that is CPAP. A lot of interesting mechanics. It's quite a hard boss, but again, it doesn't have much HP, so eventually, if your character's strong enough, you can one-shot this boss.